Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today I'm going to give you my first impressions of the In the Name of the Tsar DLC for Battlefield 1. This has been touted as the largest content drop for Battlefield 1 since launch, and I gotta say, it definitely delivers. We have 6 new maps exploring the Russian side of the war. A lot of them have snow in them and totally different looking visual styles to them, which is really nice compared to the French DLC. We also have the Russian faction now, which has female soldiers, different style Russian grenades, and a bunch of other cool things that come with it. 11 new weapons, which is really exciting, and a lot of these new guns actually bring something different to the table rather than just sort of rehashing the same old thing. We've got some interesting options in there. We have 2 new operations and a new game mode called Supply Drop, plus a smattering of new vehicles and stationary weapons in there. I won't say the vehicles really change things up too drastically, but if you just want a different visual style or look to things, there's a few cool little things in there that you can play around with. Oh yeah, and then there's of course the different cavalry unit that comes with a lance instead of a sword, which is actually a lot of fun, and I definitely prefer it over the saber cavalry style. And the patch also came with the ability to enable HDR, high dynamic range. If you have a monitor or a TV that supports that, you can now get a higher contrast ratio and increased color palette. Now there's a lot of content to talk about here. Let's talk about the 6 new maps. Out of those 6 maps, Albion is without question my favorite. It brings a different dynamic to a Battlefield Conquest map. You have a huge map with lots of vehicles, mostly boats and airplanes, which is an interesting dynamic, and then infantry are sort of left to fight on their own when it comes to the island hopping. I really enjoyed the dynamic here. There's 2 different behemoths that can come in, and it's just really cool. It plays out really well. I have a whole video dedicated to that if you want to see more in depth, but it is a solid map. My least favorite map of the DLC is Tsar, or however you would like to pronounce that name. It's the map that has the giant church in the middle and 3 capture points on conquest. I think it just doesn't play well at all. The church is so incredibly easy to defend that it becomes almost pointless for an attacking team to assault it. I think that design of the church needs a major overhaul, and maybe even the map itself. 3 capture points just really isn't working so well, especially on 64-player games. It is just a cluster and very chaotic and messy. Then of course we have Lupkow Pass, which many people have already played. It's a fun but slightly chaotic map. Personally, I don't think it needs the airplanes, but it plays okay overall. I think some of the capture points are a little bit too far from the center of the map and basically just require somebody to run all the way out to a capture point to try and get it, and there's usually not a lot of action. Most of it's focused around the center of the map, so the layout could use a little bit of work in terms of the location of the capture points, but overall it's a decent little map. Then we have Galicia, which is an interesting map in that it's like frozen farmland and there's not a lot of snow in it. It's just like hard dirt. There's some craters and stuff that create cover for you to cross these big open fields, but it is a brutal map to play. Now, I tried playing this map with multiple classes as I was trying to unlock different weapons, but I gotta say, playing anything other than sniper was pretty painful. So unless you are a big fan of sniper-oriented maps, you might not like this one. Volga River is a fun, interesting map that is like a snowy tundra with a lot of ruined buildings, sort of a bigger ruined fort towards the center. I found that this map played out really well on Conquest. It was enjoyable. You could play Assault, you could play Sniper. You could really use a lot of cover to move around the map as needed. There was a few tanks available, land ships actually. I found that it was interesting how they restricted the vehicle usage on certain maps to be more thematic or appropriate for what was happening in the battle, and so you're not going to see a lot of light tanks running around, which is nice. You'll see much more land ships, which kind of forces some of the team-oriented gameplay. However, on the operations game mode, Volga River really didn't play out so well. I felt it was quite imbalanced in general, and the assaulting teams really needed like overwhelming force just to get through a few of those capture points. I definitely feel some of the maps could use a bit more balance when it comes to operations. And finally, we have Brusilov Keep. I was able to play this quite a bit on CTE during the Rush game mode, and I felt it was actually pretty fun on Rush, despite some of the glitches in the map during the CTE session. The overall layout was pretty good, and I played it again on Operations this time around, and I felt like it played out pretty well. I did, however, play it on Conquest, and I think it's just not well designed for Conquest. It's very long and linear, and our team ended up getting spawn camped where we had 0 flags and were unable to actually push out of the spawn location, and that is a problem with long linear map design, and I feel like this one just isn't really built around Conquest. Overall, I think the 6 maps are decent. I think we have 2 to 3 pretty good quality maps in there, and then 3 mediocre to bad maps in there. As with pretty much all DICE map design, sometimes they play really well on one specific game mode, and sometimes they play terribly on other game modes. This is just a problem of DICE trying to shoehorn all their maps into every single game mode. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad, and that is, of course, the case here within the Name of the Tsar. Now, I would like to talk to you guys about the new game mode supply drop that DICE has implemented here. I was actually excited for this because it's a new take on sort of a TDM style game mode that offers a bit more objective play in there. I like the style of this objective play. It's worked out really well in other first-person shooters. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into any full servers. Admittedly, I missed the first few days of this DLC dropping, so I didn't hit it quite at its peak. But playing on PC, I was not able to get into a single supply drop server that filled up at any point. So I can't tell you guys. And that's unfortunately just a continuation of the problem of the premium model that DICE has pushed forward with Battlefield 1. This could be the very last time we see premium in any Battlefield game, as there's a lot of evidence to suggest that DICE is going to be switching over to a free map DLC policy for all games in the future. But unfortunately, we're stuck with premium for BF1, and the results are things like not enough people playing the new maps, or the DLC, or even anybody playing the new game mode. So that's unfortunately really disappointing, as I was looking forward to this game mode. It's probably pretty good. As for the new weapons in this DLC, I was fortunate enough to be able to test out most of them in CTE so far. The unlock requirements for many of the guns do take quite a while. There's quite a few people complaining about the Parabellum MG14/17, as one of the requirements to unlock one of its variants is to shoot down 2 airplanes with a machine gun, which is a pretty tall order, especially when there's like 30 other support guys trying to shoot down airplanes with machine guns. Whoever gets the last hit gets the kill, so it could take you quite some time. This is a tricky one. I know a lot of people have been struggling with it, but for the most part, the unlocks on the guns seem pretty fair. It just requires you to do gadgets, use your gadgets appropriately, get kills with certain weapons. I don't like all of them, like getting headshots with the infantry variant of sniper rifles and stuff is kind of annoying and sort of counterintuitive to what some of the weapons are designed for. But for the most part, I think the unlocks or the assignments for these guns are pretty fun, and they add a bit more longevity and progression into the game, and whoever bought the DLC doesn't instantaneously get these guns. You really are going to have to work for them and put some time in. Guns you'll want to keep your eye out for are the Fedorov Automat, which is a fully automatic medic rifle that feels like you're basically shooting an assault rifle / carbine from previous Battlefield games. Obviously not quite that good, but it's a decent weapon. If you like close to medium range and you don't want to deal with a semi-automatic weapon, this is a great one. It's not too hard to unlock, so I recommend going for this one right away if you like playing the medic class at all. Support, again, the Parabellum MG is a great support weapon, one of the highest DPS guns in the game at the moment, and it's got plenty of ammo to boot, so you're going to be getting killed by this gun a lot. I recommend just unlocking it for yourself and joining in the fun. The Model 1900 double barrel shotgun with a long barrel this time around is a cool addition to the assault class if you really like shotguns and you want one of the more powerful shotguns in the game. The Model 1900 double barrel shotgun available for the assault class is a pretty cool new addition to the shotgun variety in this game, so if you really like the idea of running with a very powerful double barrel, this could be a fun weapon to run with. I don't know if I would pick it over some of the more powerful pump actions in the game, but it can definitely mix things up for a bit of fun. Those are my top 3 picks for the 11 weapons so far, so if you're not really sure what to unlock first, I'd recommend trying to do those ones initially, as I think you'll get the most mileage out of them. Now, with this latest DLC and update, there have been a few new bugs introduced to the game. This is not surprising for DICE DLC, unfortunately. One thing that's been kind of annoying is the UI has a big kill feed lag. So if you're just paying attention to the color on your crosshair when it turns a certain color that indicates a kill, you might get the kill feed pop up on your screen like 10 seconds later or even longer sometimes. It's kind of crazy like that. It's a little bit annoying. It doesn't really ruin the game, but you're sort of like, what did DICE do this time to mess that up? Also, a lot of European players are complaining that the lag is insane right now on European servers. Even when you have a ping of 14 to 50 milliseconds, players are saying that it's totally unplayable right now. And I think DICE is working on that and trying to get it resolved. So there's a few little bugs here and there that have come with the DLC, which is, again, is not surprising. And hopefully DICE will get those ironed out in the near future. Overall, there's no denying that this DLC brings more content to the game than any of the previous DLCs. We don't get a new behemoth like we did with the French DLC, and we don't have a new elite class, again, like we did with the French DLC. But overall, I'm fine with DICE sacrificing those aspects of the game to add more weapons and more maps at launch. The average player is going to get significantly more value out of those things than a behemoth or a new elite class. As cool as those things can be, I think overall just more weapons and variety with maps is going to be worth so much more. So if you're a big fan of Battlefield 1, this is definitely a DLC worth picking up. And if you've sort of lost interest in Battlefield 1 recently, well, there's a CTE patch in the works that is going to update a lot of the weapon balance, and when that comes around, I think it's going to make the game far more enjoyable for players like myself and some of you guys out there. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first impressions video, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.